What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So today's video we're going to be replacing a water pump on this 2011 Audi Q7. It is a 3-liter supercharged V6. Water pump is pretty straightforward to get to. It's right up front on this. The reason why we're replacing this water pump is because the vehicle actually overheated a couple days ago on this customer. I was able to go look at it, grab the pulley on the front of the motor with the drive belt on it and actually get some movement out of it. And then once you took the belt off, I was able to get a lot more play in that pulley without the tension of the belt pulling it down. So we obviously have a bad water pump. I believe there may also be an issue with the thermostat. I'm going to start with replacing the water pump and checking to see if it still has an overheat issue, and then we will go forward with replacing the thermostat if that is the issue. But I'm going to go over replacing this water pump, you know, step by steps for you guys, just to show you guys how it's done. So let's get to it. All right, first two things we're going to do, we're going to come underneath the car. I obviously have the ability to use this lift here. You guys may be on the floor. Underneath the car, you're going to take this front skid plate off. There are 4 screws here along the back. They're either a 10mm on the outside or a T30 socket on the inside. And then along the front here at the bumper, there are T25s. As you can see, I'm missing a couple of them. And there's also T25s here. You're gonna take all those out, and then we're gonna take the skid plate off. I'm gonna get this off, and then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna get the lower radiator hose off, and we're gonna drain the coolant. All right, we got our lower splash shield off. I also missed a couple screws telling you guys. There's also 2 screws here on the side, out by the tires on either side, that are holding that splash shield on. Those are T25s as well. Once we get that off, we have access to a lot of stuff underneath here, including the coolant hose that we're trying to take off, which is gonna be this hose right here, the bigger hose in the back here, where my finger is. There's a clip on it that goes up. It's like a little metal clip. You pop that clip up, and we're gonna pop that hose off of there. All right, so we're back up top after we got our coolant drained out. One thing I do want to tell you guys, make your life a little bit easier, take your reservoir cap off before you start draining your coolant. It'll come out without taking the cap off, but when you take the cap off, it comes out a lot quicker. It allows atmospheric pressure to push into the system and push the coolant out. If you don't take that cap off, when the coolant starts falling out at the bottom, it pulls vacuum on the rest of the system, and it just takes longer. It kind of like, it comes out in like surges. So take the cap off and make it life easier to get the coolant out of it. Now that we're back up top, we're going to work on getting our water pump replaced. You got to take drive belts off first. You actually don't have to take this Supercharger drive belt off. You can just take the drive belt off in the back for the water pump. I'm going to take the Supercharger drive belt off because I don't want to get coolant on it, because it can actually damage the belt. So I'm going to take this off. This pulley right here has a 16mm bolt on the front of it. You tension it like you're tightening it, and it'll take tension off the tensioner and allow you to pull this belt off. I'm going to get that belt off, and then we're going to work on getting the back belt off. That tensioner is right down here, and that's the same 16mm bolt on the front of it. Tension it like you're tightening the bolt itself, and it'll take tension off the tensioner and allow you to remove the belt. It's quite tight in here where you're trying to get your ratchet and stuff into. So to make life easier, I'm going to take this metal piping off, or loosen it up here at the top and take it loose at the bottom down there. There's a T30 here, and there's a T30 down there at the bottom of the pan on either side, and that whole piping system will be loose, and then you can pull it away so you can get cleaner access in here. So I'm going to take those 2 off, and I'm going to get the belt pulled off. One other note I do want to give you guys as well is when you go to take this off, I'm going to get this front belt off. In order to get the belt off all the way, which I'm going to be replacing in this instance, so I'm going to have to, you're going to have to take this idler pulley for the Supercharger belt off, because the belt actually runs behind it on an idler pulley, and there's no space behind this pulley to get the belt out from behind it. Just letting you guys know, and there's no space underneath that bracket either to try to pinch the belt through. It's actually really tight in there. And then before I take this belt off, I'm going to get these bolts here on this water pump loose, just because I don't have the special tool that you're supposed to have that goes in these opposite 3 holes of this pulley to hold the pulley in place to break these bolts loose. And I'm going to use the fact that the belt's on there and applying tension to this pulley to break those bolts loose. Those are around here somewhere. I believe this is a 10mm triple square. Don't quote me on that. These are a 10mm triple square, as well as the bolt for the idler for the Supercharger belt as well. So I'm going to get these bolts broke loose with the belt still on there. Don't take them off all the way, just break them loose. Take your belt off, and then before you try to get your belt off all the way, you're going to take this idler pulley here off as well. So I'm going to get all this stuff off, and then we're going to get the pulley off, and then I'm going to show you guys the bolts that need to come off in order to take the water pump out. All right, got both drive belts off. We got our pump pulley off, and then you can actually see our pump. And then on the front of this pump, there are 7 T30s around. And like I've said in the past, what you guys can do is take your old pump, or your new pump, and look at it, and figure out where your bolts are and how many you've got to take out in order to get it out. It makes your life a lot easier if you've got your new part, just to kind of give you an idea of what's got to come off. So I'm going to get those 7 T30s pulled out of this, and we're going to pull our pump off, and then we'll get our new one put on, and we'll wrap this job up. But let's get this old one off first and see if we can see how messed up it is inside. All right, so we got our old water pump out. This is the old one on the left. This is our new one on the right. There is one thing that I want to tell you guys. There's an issue that can be caused by these water pumps that's actually somewhat difficult to diagnose. I have seen in the past where these impellers will actually break free and not be driven by the shaft that they're pushed onto. There's no nut holding this together. There's no splines in here. This impeller is press fit onto the shaft that's then driven on the other side by the pulley. And what I've seen happen is, due to heat cycling and just age of the vehicle, this impeller will actually break loose from that shaft when the engine gets up to operating temperature and not spin or not move enough coolant. And what happens is because there's coolant around this gear, around this impeller, it's providing resistance to it turning. The shaft will just spin inside this impeller, and sometimes it spins completely freely and you have a vehicle that overheats like immediately, and other times you'll have a car that kind of like overheats intermittently or takes a long time of driving before it overheats. And that's because this is sometimes it may be spinning and breaking free intermittently and not moving coolant, and then like re-catching or re-shrinking down in size and grabbing that shaft again and moving coolant. So you can have an issue where the water pump is actually causing an overheat issue and or an intermittent overheat issue. A lot of times what happens is people diagnose it as a thermostat problem, and you replace the thermostat and then you still have the same problem again, or the same overheating situation again, and it ends up being this. I've had some instances where I've pulled these pumps out of cars and this impeller at room temperature is spinning freely from that shaft. That usually happens when people have overheated the car quite a few times because of the overheating issue and have heat cycled this to the point that it's expanded and is not gripping that shaft anymore. But in a regular situation, just due to age and mileage, that impeller can spin freely at operating temperature but seem okay at room temperature when you go to pull things apart. So I just wanted to warn you guys of that. If you are having an overheating issue that you've already done some other work to and it's still not going away, that this water pump could be part of the problem. So we're going to get our new water pump put in. We're going to top this thing back up with coolant, and then we're going to check and see whether or not we have our overheating issue still. All right, so we got our water pump back in, our pulley back on. I just put these 3 screws in finger tight, and we put our belt on. I just wanted to give you guys kind of a visual representation of where the belt goes. Runs down over here to the alternator, comes up over this idler right here, runs across to our tensioner down here, runs around the tensioner and around our crankshaft, and then around our AC compressor down there, and then up here to our power steering pump, and then back up over top of our water pump. I will put a picture right here in the video of a belt routing diagram just so that you guys have an idea of a picture for reference if you needed it. So once I got the belt on, I actually tightened these up. I will put a picture or a little note at the end of the video here for the torque specs for the screws here, as well as the water pump and for your either pulley for your supercharger that I've all got to come off in order to do this. So I'm going to get this either put back on, supercharger pulley put back on, covers put back on, vehicle filled back up with coolant, and we are going to be done with this job, and I'll show you guys everything wrapped up and how everything's working good. All right, so it's a couple days later. We got our Audi all finished up here. I did want to tell you guys, I told you in the beginning of the video that I believe the water pump was the problem just because the way it was overheating was not consistent. It wasn't overheating constantly. It overheat sometimes when you drove it and other times it didn't. The water pump did not end up actually fixing the problem that we were having, although the water pump did have play in it, so it was a good thing that we did replace it. The thermostat actually ended up being bad. When I pulled the thermostat out and replaced it on this car, the way it sits in like a little boss inside the engine itself, and it was like bent. It was weird. It was like it had started to like come apart but wasn't completely coming apart, and I guess it was probably binding up when it was trying to open up and not opening up completely. So I ended up replacing the thermostat on this in order to fix our overheating issue. Due to time constraints, I was not able to record that. It's a very time-consuming process, and I didn't have a lot of time to record while trying to get the job done due to the the time that I was given. So I was not able to record the thermostat replacement. What I will do for you guys is I will put a link in the description down below, and I will do a write-up of like pictures and text explaining how to do the thermostat replacement on this, just in case you have attempted to replace your thermostat or have already replaced your water pump and you're still having issues with overheating, or you just need that information on how to replace it. It'll be available to you guys. We got the car all finished up. Like I said, it's running, it's not overheating. It's, as you can see, I'm sweating. It's about 95 degrees outside today. Air conditioning's on full blast, and we are now no longer having any issues with overheating. As you can see, the 10 gauge is sitting in the middle. The car's been running for about 20 minutes now, so we're good. I've driven it a couple times since doing the work to make sure that it wasn't overheating anymore, and it's not. We're done with this job. If you guys have any questions, please comment down below, and I'll be sure to answer any questions you guys have. I would really appreciate it if you guys subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you later.
Come, selector.